On this edition of Southern Newsweek, university graduations are cancelled at the last minute due to a safety threat. Climate activists stage a die-in to show their opposition to a proposed airport. And Pixie Town opens for business at Toitu after their caregiver gave them a spruce up. Kia ora, I'm Daryl Baser. The University of Otago hastily cancelled 2 graduation ceremonies due to a security scare. The university sent out text alerts to students, distributed flyers on campus and alerted media to a threat made about the safety of students. Disappointed and tearful students turning away from Dunedin's town hall after the day's 2 graduation ceremonies were cancelled at the last minute. Richard Marks was among those due to graduate today. He and his mother are philosophical.
It's frustrating, but it's much better to be safe than sorry in this situation. Otherwise the day could have been a lot more tragic than it actually was, I feel.
Nothing guarantees that the next ceremonies will be going ahead. Same thing could happen, couldn't it?
Police and the University of Otago held a press conference this afternoon outlining the situation.
The safety of everyone who was to take part in those ceremonies and the wider Dunedin community is at the heart of this very difficult decision. We realize that it is going to be incredibly distressing to our graduates and their families who were planning on graduating in person today.
We are taking the threat very seriously. I have a large team working on it as we speak, and we're confident that we will make progress over the next 24 to 36 hours.
The university says it had received the threat electronically earlier in the week and advised of the postponement, which affects 553 students. Richard Marks says the university has communicated well.
It was very quick. Everyone got a message. Anyone that had the Otago student app downloaded instantly got a notification following that. Everyone got emailed to their student email about the situation, and there were people on campus handing out flyers after that as well.
The University of Otago says that the graduations will be rescheduled. And addressing the person or people behind the threat, Superintendent Paul Basham says it's not too late to come forward and talk with police. In Dunedin, the South today. Some of those involved with the proposed Southland Charity Hospital got to contribute to the mahi by swinging a sledgehammer recently. Those behind the project say the hospital will provide free services to people in Otago and Southland who are unable to access care through either the public or private health systems.
Campaigner Melissa Vining gets to do some of the first repurposing of a former Invercargill pub into a new charity hospital. Thanks to fundraising by many people and organisations across the community, the hospital might only be a year away.
It's just been incredible to see everyone from farmers to city people to personal donations, children in schools, and obviously our successful Buy a Brick campaign has just made this happen so quickly.
Melissa and her husband Blair Vining fought for better cancer care after Blair became sick. He died from the disease last year, and a campaign for the new charity hospital has been his legacy.
I think he would just be proud of our community. He'd just be proud of all the efforts of everybody who has, whether they've bought a brick or they've had a dog trial fundraiser or the Bales for Blair campaign. He'd just be so proud of everyone working together to get on with helping people.
The old Clifton Club Inn was gifted by the Invercargill Licensing Trust and is ideal for converting into a charity hospital.
It was had great bones to start with, and we can repurpose the building rather than completely demolish and restart. The scale of the site allows development to future-proofs if there is ever any further need for an additional theatre.
Fundraising is almost halfway towards the overall price tag of about $5.5 million to create a fully functioning hospital, with the start of renovations seen as a very positive step.
And I don't think there was ever any doubt that this day would come, but I think now it's here. It's really exciting, particularly just before Christmas. I think it's a real feel-good factor for everybody that, everybody's hard work, particularly all of the volunteers that took part in Pack the Park. It was such a phenomenal event that was just, such an incredible amount of work. So actually to get to the point where we've kind of, reached our goal and can now start to make holes in the wall is really exciting. It's just amazing.
The new hospital is to provide free services to those unable to access care through public or private health systems. In Invercargill, the South Today.
Climate activists fighting against the development of an airport in Terrace pretended to die at a Christchurch City Council meeting. As an Extinction Rebellion group member addressed council, a number of black-clad protesters began dying in the meeting room. Protesting for the planet's future.
Please instruct Christchurch International Airport Limited that they must not expand or build new airports when we are living in a climate and ecological crisis.
As Extinction Rebellion Ōtautahi spokesperson David Goldsmith's address continued, members of the group left their seats in the public gallery and began dropping dead in the middle of the meeting room.
Please don't believe that humanity can cleverly be immune from extinction. Our lives are part of an interdependent web of life.
The group is opposed to Christchurch International Airport Limited's proposed new airport at Terrace. Goldsmith thanked the Council's Finance and Performance Committee for the Christchurch Council recognising a climate emergency last year.
Obviously, you already understand and agree that the situation we face is serious and desperate because you declared a climate and ecological emergency 18 months ago. Thank you very much for taking this first step.
Christchurch International Airport Limited announced the purchase of 750 hectares for the proposed airport in July this year. The controversial development has ruffled feathers with some Terrace locals, as well as Queenstown Mayor Jim Bolt. In Christchurch, the South Today. The signs of Christmas are rapidly springing up all over the place, from dazzling displays of Christmas lights to the city's decorations and the return of Pixie Town to the Otago Settlers Museum. If you go down to Toitu today, you may be in for a surprise from a group of seasonal characters who are back for another year.
Now they're getting to being 70 or 80 years old, and most pixies would be retiring by then, but these ones keep going to keep the next generation suitably amused with all their little antics.
Pixie Town was created by Nelson Manfred Jones in the 1930s, and he toured them around New Zealand before selling them to the DIC department store in the 1950s, where they were a Christmas attraction for almost 40 years. They're now a regular feature at Toitu Settlers Museum.
Fred Jones used to tour around with the truck and had the units in the back of them. Majority of these ones have come from the basement of DIC.
When DIC closed in the late 1980s, some of the pixies became part of the Settlers collection, where they continue to be displayed in the build-up to Christmas each year. Chief Pixie mechanic Stephen Kilroy says turning your back on them can be risky.
We work it all out and then we come up with a plan, and then the first day is getting ready for the pixies, and then the pixies move house from their storage and come in, and we do that generally in the morning.
Kilroy says the annual display is set to be open to the public until 4 p.m. on December the 24th, Christmas Eve. In Dunedin, the South Today. Southland children got to test their limits as Invercargill hosted this year's Tough Kid event. About 1,600 youngsters took on the various obstacle courses for a day of exercise-filled fun.
The sounds of children cheering echoed throughout Invercargill recently. Around 1,600 children could be seen leaping, bounding and crawling their way through a giant obstacle course as part of the Mitre 10 Mega Tough Kid event presented by Sport Southland. Sport Southland Communications Manager Nathan Burden says the course motivates children to do what they do best.
I think you can see at events like this that kids just want to move. You know, kids are really made to move, so it's fantastic. You give them a good opportunity, create a bit of hype, and they'll just get out and do it, and you can see the smiles on their faces. They absolutely love it.
The event has been running for about 8 years and has a range of obstacles from cargo nets, cable reels, climbing walls, slides and more. Burden says the turnout was great and included pupils from around Southland.
It's pretty much every school across the province. So a couple of the schools, unfortunately, Tiano, quite a long way for them to come. So, but what a great thing, they've actually set up their own event very similar to this out in Tiano. So good on them.
In Invercargill, the South Today.
And still to come on Southern Newsweek, churches joined forces in Christchurch to raise funds for refugees, And a Dunedin kindergarten is all abuzz thanks to some new residents. No mai anō, welcome back. Churches in East Christchurch joined forces recently in a show of solidarity with refugees in the city. The second annual 14-kilometre refugee walk went from New Brighton to Redcliffs and brought together walkers from 5 churches, raising funds for a seasonal appeal. 'Tis the season of giving.
We're walking for refugees. We're raising funds for programs that Christian World Service supports. We just think this is a great way of starting the Advent season.
It's the second year parishioners from a collection of churches have gathered and raised funds for refugees via Christchurch-based organisation Christian World Service.
Refugees actually feature in the Christmas story, so this is a good thing to be doing, supporting others in real need.
The 14-kilometre trek takes the faithful, friends and whānau around a host of churches in New Brighton, Aronui and Linwood, as well as through scenic parts of the Garden City, all with a simple hope for humanity.
Today we started with a time of worship in New Brighton in the Chapel of the Waves, and we lit the first Advent candle, which is the candle of hope or prophetic hope. And so we're walking in hope today that the world can be a better place for refugees.
They say COVID-19 has definitely brought the message home clearly, as all people are affected by these issues and we all need to support one another. Linwood Avenue Union Church Minister Jonathan Barb says getting out and about is good for getting people to connect with themselves and others.
I think it's important to do something physical that matches our, that gives us a chance to allow our minds and our hearts to line up and think about a little bit about what's going on. And though our scenario is completely different and we're still in a place of peace and privilege and all that sort of stuff, it gives us an opportunity to at least contemplate while walking what we're doing and how what we can do might help some people.
Christian World Service is a Christchurch-based foreign aid organisation which partners with Christian organisations around the world to support those in need. In Christchurch, the South today. A Dunedin kindergarten is embracing the world of apiculture, with one 4-year-old asking to spend her birthday firmly in the territory of real-life buzzy bees.
Frankie Wells is a 4-year-old braver than most. As a birthday treat, Frankie was allowed to don a beekeeping suit to get up and close with her kindergarten's beehive and its residents. Bayfield kindergarten teacher Ray Shabat says having children of a young age interact with bees in their hives is a great way to broaden a child's understanding of bugs and insects.
They love it, and I have to say it's probably one of the most exciting, rewarding learning experiences that I have done with children. It's so important, I mean, because you're bringing in science, you're bringing in environmentalism, you're bringing in contribution to your community. It's just fantastic work that the children are doing, and I'm so proud of them.
The beehive was introduced to the kindergarten earlier in the year with only 2 child-sized suits. However, the school has recently raised enough money to buy 8 more suits, allowing more children to get involved.
We were lucky enough to have a bottle auction where we wrapped up bottles and people came in and bid on them during a family fun night, and we actually managed to raise $1,800. So it was great support from the community, and I think more and more people are conscious of bees and beekeeping, and so it's actually something that children can relate to.
The beehive is now producing honey, but the kindergarten isn't quite sure what to do with the delicious reward. In Dunedin, the South today.
Te Anō businesses affected by COVID-19 say the weekend's Kepler Challenge has been a financial boost. Held in mostly terrible weather, the sports event attracted a strong group of competitors from across New Zealand. Well, no one was going to get heat stroke at this year's Kepler Challenge, but hypothermia was more likely. Men's winner Daniel Jones enjoyed his race and says cooler temperatures and rain weren't a concern.
As long as you're motoring along, you don't get too cold.
Women's winner Nancy Zhang knew her closest rival was hot on her heels throughout the race, which spurred this year's Auckland Marathon winner on.
I know she was probably like a minute or two behind me the whole way, because it's like 2 out and backs. I've got people telling me, she's just a few places back.
Zhang is looking forward to a small break over the festive season, but is looking ahead to the World Mountain Running competitions should they go ahead. In the meantime, she's pretty happy with this weekend's win.
It really pushed me, I felt like I dug in pretty deep today, so I'm stoked.
The Luxmore Grunt is a slightly shorter race, which has competitors traversing a 27-kilometre course.
I was hoping just to do as much damage as possible up the hill, and then I just took a time check for the next guy once I was coming back down from the hut, and I was at 8 minutes. I was like, surely I can't squander 8 minutes, even if they're absolute animals on the downhill. So, I was pleased with that.
Winner Jonathan Jackson is a top-ranked national 10K and cross-country runner who took out the Luxmore Grunt ahead of policeman Dwight Grieve and Sam Manson. At the Kepler Challenge, the South today. The Wholesome Creative Arts and Wellness Festival was devised by Alexandra woman Angela Connell, who likens the event to a mini WOMAD. Connell says her desire is to celebrate an uplifting event in these trying times.
A festival in Alexandra over the weekend offered music, meditation, macrame and more. Festival organiser Angela Connell said the aim was to create a positive event.
I'm a creative person that saw the benefit of creativity in a community to uplift wellness, and I saw a gap in this area, and I wanted to step into it and to do something that would really uplift and connect and inspire our community. So it grew from there, and particularly doing it this year was more in response to the traumatic year that we've all had, and putting a bit more pressure on myself to do it this year, but I'm glad that I have.
Indoor workshops and outdoor events were wide-ranging.
We have covered everything from circus performance and silk and aerial displays to gardening and composting. We have an artisans market with macrame workshops and a local ceramics artist. There's a sandpit for sand mandala creations, and we also have had the bouldering. So there's a stand-up rock climbing workshop here as well. So yeah, plus all the music in between.
The festival had been in the planning for some time.
It was a wee seed that had been germinating for a few years. The idea maybe like a mini WOMAD kind of vibe. So yeah, and still the long-term vision would be that it becomes something bigger, perhaps with camping on a property where it's all sustainable and kind of giving back to the land where it is also.
In Alexandra for the South today.
After the break on this edition of Southern Newsweek, Santa visits the South and Oamaru's annual food drive collects many items for those in need. See you soon. Welcome back. It's that time of the year. Christmas parades are popping up across the world, and our southern towns and cities are no exception. On Saturday, those in Balclutha had the chance to see a range of floats and displays, plus Santa Claus himself, parading down their main street.
Santa rolled into Balclutha as part of the Clutha County Christmas Parade and Market Day, bringing some festive cheer to the district. Rain showers held off while spectators were treated to a line-up along the main street that included historical fire engines and tractors, show queens, hundreds of children dressed as packages, stilt walkers and cultural shows, motorcycles, Elvis and dogs, lifesavers and scouts. Santa Claus himself brought up the rear of the parade. Clutha District Council Mayor Brian Cadogan says it was a magnificent day for Balclutha.
Yeah, and finally, look everyone, the warmest of Merry Christmases and a happy holiday. I think we all deserve a bit of a time away and a bit of a bonding with family. So all the very best for 2021 and thanks for the support over this year.
The event also included a market day with a wide range of homemade food treats plus arts and crafts for sale, featuring everything from licorice to scented candles. Labour MP Ingrid Leary says she's always keen to support local artisans as she completes her Christmas shopping.
Santa parades are always wonderful. It's great to be here to see particularly actually the artisan products that are out. I'm keen to do my Christmas shopping in places like this because it's all about supporting local artists. But especially this year, it's so poignant when we see what's happening overseas. The fact that we can get out and be a community together is amazing, and I just want to wish everybody a really very happy Merry Christmas, be safe, enjoy this time with your loved ones, and we'll see you all next year.
In Balclutha, the South Today.
30 children living with illnesses have been treated to a flight over Southland and Otago. The trip replaced an overseas excursion which couldn't take place due to borders being closed this year.
This year's Coro Club Southland trip wasn't to the Gold Coast or Disneyland due to COVID-19 closing the borders. Instead, 30 local children living with illnesses were treated to a 1-hour scenic flight over the mountains, valleys and lakes of central Otago.
We took them today on a wonderful flight around Queenstown and Te Anau, and it was just a great experience for the families. A lot who had never been on an airplane before, it was such a joy. And for children who would never be able to cope with going overseas or going overnight for a few nights on holiday to Gold Coast and Disneyland, which is where we used to be.
The day out allowed the youngsters to bond, through all of them living with compromised health, making it a very special experience for all involved.
It's so important for the children just to give them self-esteem, confidence and experience that they would never have. A lot of them were in wheelchairs, a lot of them their health compromises their everyday living, so for this it was to take them on an experience, and it was for an hour, but we met for a couple of hours beforehand, and just for them to see other children with similar illnesses and to share that moment with each other was wonderful.
As well as the hour-long flight, there was also a Disney-themed party for the children to enjoy.
We had face painting done, as you can see. We had wonderful food donated by a number of organisations throughout Invercargill to support us. And we had a musician. A lot of this was voluntary done so that we were able to have a fun activity, not just for the children on the flight and the caregiver or the parent, but for the rest of the family as well. So it was a wonderful experience and something we've just looked forward to for many years. So mission accomplished today.
And in Invercargill, the South Today.
People have the chance this month to see the lanterns intended for this year's Midwinter Carnival. The exhibition features lanterns, smoke machines and lighting effects designed to provide a magical experience for the whole family.
Just like in previous years, smoke machines, special effects and soundtracks will be cranking up to accompany a lavish static display of large and small lanterns in the weekend before Christmas.
What we're doing is we're creating an experience to celebrate the seasons, the summer solstice, but also the lead up to Christmas.
This year the Summer Lights display is being set up in the former Living and Party store in Princes Street. The theme of this year's display is Magical Garden, featuring the lanterns that were intended for this year's Midwinter Carnival, which was cancelled due to COVID-19.
The giant lanterns are the highlight, really, and they're artworks. And they're quite beautiful, and what we do is we group different ones together to create these little scenes, and they're very picturesque, and I think people will enjoy them.
Entry is free for under 5s, $5 for children over 5 and $10 for adults, with funds raised going towards the cost of storing the lanterns.
People can book from our website, which is midwintercarnival.co.nz, but they can just turn up, and but if they want to make sure that they're all organised, they can do that in advance.
The summer lights display will be open for afternoon and evening slots for 4 days over the weekend before Christmas. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The Oamaru Combined Churches Food Bank has been inundated with items thanks to the community's generosity. The annual street appeal gathers donations from the public to be redistributed to the needy.
The North Otago Lions Club hosted its annual Toot for Taka food drive in Oamaru, gathering all sorts of donations of non-perishable items for the food bank. Emergency services, community youth groups and various Lions Club members took to the streets throughout the town and nearby Weston to collect the items. Organisers say the response was absolutely overwhelming and they're grateful for the community's support. The food bank is planning to start making parcels on Friday, ready to be delivered to families throughout North Otago. In Oamaru, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from across the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Ka kite, anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.